All right, and welcome to this episode of Hammering Down. I am being joined by a super special guest today, an absolute legend from the Birmingham area. We all love her, we all know her, and just absolute great person. She was Oak Mountain, I believe. Then she went through Alabama FC, I think that's what they're called now, which is now the WPSL, or whatever. It's one of the W's. And then she made her way to Alabama, where she got an engineering degree. So she's definitely way smarter than I am. And now she's made her way to racing Louisville. I'm being joined by Miss Nealy Martin. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. And
Good.
before we get going, like I said, I'm not that smart. You're way smarter than I am. So I feel like I needed a little bit of help with this interview. So I'm going to have someone join me in just a second. And whenever it's going to be joining
I'm not
in,
smart. I'm kind of nervous.
it's a old friend of yours, Miss Taylor Morgan. How you doing, Taylor?
Hi, Nealy.
Taylor.
How
So
are you?
Good. I just saw her like a few days ago out in Portland.
yeah, it was kind of funny. I reached out to Taylor and I was like, "Would you mind doing this?" And she was like, "Of course." And I looked at the schedule. I was like, "Oh, she's going to be in Portland anyway. No big deal." So
Yeah.
how was you got to start that match, so that was pretty cool. And Taylor got to see you do your thing firsthand. And like I said, you're a starter now or you've been starting a few matches at racing. What's the level jump been like from college to the NWSL, which a lot of people consider the best women's league in the world?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely the speed of play is a lot quicker. But luckily we had 10 weeks of preseason to get used to that and a lot of preseason games as well. And then the Challenge Cup at the beginning of the year to kind of get our feet and get where we needed to be. So it was a big adjustment, but honestly, I love it. I love how quick of how fast the play is.
So Taylor, you have seen Nealy since basically she was very young in college. I think you came in her sophomore year, if I'm remembering correctly. And then she just took off and got better and better. How has it been seeing her grow as a player, and also same vice versa for you, seeing Taylor come in and when she was a freshman and then seeing her leave as senior? What was that experience like?
Yeah, for me, I mean, Nealy has just gotten better and better every year. It was really cool to get to see her play, especially pro. And considering she was one of the best players on the field and she's playing with people who have been playing for 10 years or so, I think that was really cool. And just to see her go from Alabama and Busa to college and then thrive in college, become our captain, and then go play pro was just it kind of went full circle. And it was really cool to get to experience it in person because Nealy's been one of my closest friends since I came in early. I used to sleep over at Nealy's dorm room every single night. And it was really cool to get to see her kind of grow throughout college and just to see her grow as a player and as a person. And, to get to see her in Portland was even more special to me.
Yeah, that was really sweet, Taylor. But honestly, having her come in early, her freshman year, it's a huge adjustment going from high school to college. And just becoming friends with her and seeing how much she grew all the way through her senior year was crazy. Like literally, I would always text her and be like, or like call her or see her and be like, Taylor, you are literally a different person. Like, I'm so proud of you. And now seeing her at Portland, like chasing her dreams and obviously doing an incredible job with social media, like is just really cool for me as well.
That's so cool. And I I was going to talk about the recruiting thing, but I kind of want to just skip a little bit further your time at Alabama, right? And you guys were absolutely special on the pitch together. It was so much fun to watch during, I think last year due to COVID was the first matches I had to miss as a student at UA. And one of the greatest moments I ever saw in person. And it was one of those that people were like, "Oh, I was there and I cried." I did cry. It was around the 80th minute in 2018 or 2019. And there was a pass from Taylor Morgan to Nealy Martin to beat Texas A&M, a top 5 team. And everybody was going nuts. All of us over there in the student section, we were like, oh my God, we're going to beat A&M. This is crazy, a top 5 team. And seeing you guys go nuts, it was just absolutely magical. And that, I mean, how was that? I mean, knowing that you just did something for the first time in program history, what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, honestly. I don't even know why I was that high up the field, to be honest. And Taylor just laid it off to me, and my first reaction was to shoot. But I think chemistry off the field kind of carried onto the field for me and Taylor, and it was just cool to share that moment with her during the game, and then hang on to the win and get to celebrate after. It was awesome.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. We have that picture hanging in our locker room of all of us hugging Neely and Neely celebrating. And I just think it was really cool that like our team chemistry also was just so good. I think that played a huge role in what we accomplished. And it was really cool getting to know like that the girls you're playing for around you like really care for you off the field. And Neely's definitely one of those players because she loves all of us on and off the field, like a sister, like a mom, like the best teammate you could ask for. So it was really special getting to see her score just because, she's a defender. So it was really special. I liked it a lot.
It was just absolutely nuts to see it in person. And I think a lot of people didn't really know how the match was going to go. Everybody was really excited going in. But then as it got, just time kept just draining away. We were all like, well, I guess we'll take a draw. That's a top 5 team. And then, Neely did basically kind of chip the keeper just a little bit, just a perfectly lofted just shot. And it was absolute beauty. And you mentioned, your locker room dynamic, at least from a fan. I mean, maybe I'm totally off base here, but Coach West seems like the coolest person on the planet. Is that kind of the real world experience?
Yeah, he's definitely a character once you get to know him. But honestly, he deeply cares for each of his players, and his family is highly involved with the team. So we would go over to his house, and he would cook for all of us. I drove his boat a lot, hung out with his kids. So it was more like a family atmosphere at Alabama.
Yeah, like I'm back in Tuscaloosa right now visiting our teammates. Just because like they're like my friends for life, and I did get to stop by the camp, and I got to see Wes, and he invited me over to dinner, invited me out to his boat. Like it's just one of those things that for life you got them.
So you get to Neely, you get to Alabama, but you're kind of a traitor in a way because you were originally an Auburn girl. Your recruitment to Alabama, you were the number 1 player in the state, top 25 player on all accounts in the nation. I mean, you wanted to go to Auburn. What kind of happened there? And with you being not on just from Alabama, but you've been on both sides of this rivalry now, what was it kind of like with some of your teammates who were not just out of state, but out of country? Did you kind of have to teach them like, yo, this is a big deal? Or did they kind of know like, oh, Alabama, Auburn, we kind of understand what this is?
I mean, you kind of get the hint because football's so big, and then it carries over on the soccer field as well. But for me personally, like growing up an Auburn fan and going to those games, and both my parents going to Auburn, my brother going to Auburn, my grandparents going to Auburn, and then me going to Alabama, it was a big deal. But honestly, like all the glory to God, I'm so glad that He brought me there. Because I had the most incredible experience and met literally some of my best friends like Taylor, and it's just cool, the connections that I made.
So Taylor, you're not from Alabama. You are from what many of us just consider all Yankee land, up in the Northeast. Coming down to Alabama, what was that experience like? Because maybe a slight culture shock, but then having to get doused into the fire of all the different rivalries and stuff like that. How was it?
Well, I was actually born in Birmingham. I lived in Vestavia, so I kind of knew what it was like. but half my family is Auburn fans and half of them are Alabama fans. So, I mean, once I started going to school at Alabama, my Auburn family, like they got these shirts that said Roll Taylor Roll because they went and say Roll Tide. So it was pretty cool to kind of get to like be a part of like the rivalry, and especially like the Iron Bowl. Like that was always like a huge game. And once we got the trophy, like I thought that was just the coolest thing. And that was my senior year. We finally beat them and got the trophy. So that was really cool as well. And it's just something you got to experience in life. Like it's something that there's no feeling like it. Like there's nothing like an Alabama Auburn rival. Like, and other people talk about their rivalries in school, but like it's
No.
nothing like it.
Yeah. And Taylor's family would show up. When they showed up, it'd be like 20 of them, the same shirt. It was big time.
Very embarrassing. Like, and they put my name on the back. It said YOLO on the back. So
Oh, yeah.
everyone knew they were my family. So I was always so embarrassed whenever they'd show up because all my family lives in Alabama. So, and they would come with their country accents and their like pom poms, and it was quite the experience, and it was special definitely to get to play in front of my family all the time.
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, I guess I just didn't realize that you were from Vestavia, but you guys are two people who come from the Birmingham area who've now had a ton of success. I mean, Taylor, I mean, I love your social media stuff with Portland, and Portland is absolute top class when it comes to the social media game. So you're doing a great job. And Nealy, I really didn't care, not necessarily care about NWSL, but I didn't have a team, right? Because there's nowhere around here that has a team. And then you go off to Racing Louisville. It's a new club, awesome jerseys, and you sign for them. And I'm like, I guess here we go. I guess we're racing fans now. So it's like there's connections for us around here. And you guys have kind of been in the middle of this golden generation of Birmingham soccer. I mean, there's Jaden Cervania, who plays for the Puerto Rican national team. There's Tanner Tessman. There's Chris Richards, all from Birmingham, who are playing with the U.S. national team. Braden Cervania is doing great things in Europe. And then there's Nealy, who's playing in the best league in the world. And Taylor, you get to cover it, and it's awesome. What's it kind of been like to go play in college and be around guys like that? Because I know that, going through Busa and go through Vestavia and all that kind of stuff, you start to interact with some of those guys. Is the talent in Birmingham just for real?
I think Booth has done a good job of creating a good culture there and really growing kids. Andrew Brower is one of my close friends, and like he's like a dad to me, honestly, and he's the executive director there. I still talk to him a lot, but he's done a great job with the club and bringing in talent to raise the level, even from out of state. But it is so awesome whenever I see someone from Birmingham out on the pitch or even playing for the men's national team. I'm like, I tap the person next to me. I'm like, hey, they're from Birmingham. And they're like, oh my gosh. But like a family, even if I haven't personally interacted with them, like I just love to know that they're representing Birmingham.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, the level's always rising and it's continually getting better. And I think the leagues and like the teams that are being created, like the kids nowadays are really lucky because there's ECNL, there's DA, there's like all these different academies, like, and that's not something we really had. We had to go through a lot of camps. We had to go through a lot of ODP, and like ECNL was just coming when me and Nealy were graduating, and the DA wasn't even created yet for girls. So like that I think plays a huge part in a lot of the talent, and it's only bringing the level up, and they're only going to get better and better.
I mean, it's really crazy just see how far it's come. And, it's really funny. Everybody talks about, my area cares about my area the most, but the whole idea of the 205 is a real deal. I mean, especially, we're in high school because we're all around the same age. I remember all the time people be like, 205 is better than 265, if especially in football or whatever, there'll be times that the Birmingham or the 205 area would just absolutely slaughter everybody else. And that was a real point of pride, is seeing those guys go up, and you guys yourself. And you talked about it, it's kind of like a family. whenever you do nudge those guys, like, hey, they're from Birmingham, does everybody else kind of understand how big of a deal that is for us? Because Birmingham is not one of the big cities, or people don't see it that way.
Yeah, I think they do see it. They know it's a big deal because obviously there's not many of us from Alabama, and they'll joke with like stereotypical like roll tide, Nealy, or like just like country stuff. They'll joke with me about it. But they know there's not many of us. So when I get excited about it, it's real.
Yeah, I sent Neely a text after we played against her, and I said, like, keep putting the 205 on the map. Like, you're making us so proud. Like, because it's so cool to come out of Birmingham and be able to say, like I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Like, it's a cool thing just because there's not a lot of people that come out of Birmingham. But as the years go on, there's more and more, and the talent levels are rising. And I think that also us having like a big football program at Alabama helps Alabama have like a well-known name. So I think that it's really cool that Neely's doing what she's doing, and she's making the 205 known.
It's so crazy seeing how far, both of y'all have come. And Nealy, you mentioned just how fast the play is in the NWSL and how far the talent is. And Taylor, like I said, you get to be around it. You get to be around the girls. And I think you're with the Timbers as well, correct? So you get to be with some top level guys over there. Just being around people who are representing their city, representing their country, and just absolutely beastly out on the pitch. Is that kind of a humbling experience, or is it just kind of like, oh, wait, I'm one of them. I'm one of these people. Or is it like, maybe I don't, I don't know what's going on yet?
I just think it's a really cool experience getting to play week in and week out against some of the top level in the world. Carly Lloyd, Lindsey Horan. Like, it's just literally an incredible experience, and I try and take as much as I can from playing against them and playing with some of my teammates. Yeah, it's just really awesome.
Yeah, I think the coolest part is like every team we play, they have people that we played against in college. So like it's really cool for me to be like, oh my gosh, I remember playing against her, or I remember marking her. And there's a girl on our team with the Thorns who played for Florida State, and she actually was marking me in that game, and we happened to beat them. So when I first came, like she was like, oh, like like I know who she is, like because she remembers that game, and I think that that's something that's really cool. And to see Neely get to play with them like alongside these girls, these legends, like is really really cool. And especially the fact that Neely was one of the best players on the field, and she came from Alabama. Like literally the whole game, I'm like, that's my captain. Like, and I can't be a big fan of her team, but I can be a big Neely fan. And I think that's the coolest part, is that I get to support all these different teams by supporting the individuals that I grew up playing against, I grew up playing around. So I think that's really cool.
It's so crazy just seeing all the talent that's out there. And Taylor and Neely, you guys, Neely, you had to go against her. Taylor, you've seen her. Is Crystal Dunn as crazy as she seems? I feel like she could absolutely like just snap me in half and then just leave me to bits. Like just looks nuts on TV. Is it as crazy in person? Because I feel like it has to be.
Yeah, she's pretty quick. She can get a shot off in half a second with little space. She can turn on a dime. She's a really great player. I'm just thankful I got to play against her.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Like I get to watch their practice because my office overlooks, and I see them doing drills that we did at Alabama, and I'm like, wow, like sometimes I miss it, but then I'm like, wait a second, like no way I could play against some of these girls. Like it's like these girls who we grew up watching play, I'm getting to see in person play, and Neely's getting to play against them. And I think it's just a really cool experience, and I'm trying to take it all in. And sometimes I do get kind of like starstruck, like when people walk past me, but I got to keep it together just because like some of these girls I've been watching for 10 or so years, and now to see Neely play against them is just like I can't even put it to words. It's so cool, and I'm so proud of her.
So Neely, you're in an awesome position up in Louisville. And I believe your next coming game is going to be the first time that Lynn family is going to be 100% capacity. And Taylor, you are also with Portland, who is known to have some of the wildest fan bases in the world, really. Being a part of two fan bases who are just known for loving their club and has just grown to be this worldwide phenomenon. Nealy, I'm going to start with you first. What's it like it's not even been 100% capacity, and what's that been like? And can you even just imagine what all 15,000 people just rocking is going to be like?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We love our fans in Louisville, and they've showed up for us the past few home games. I remember the home opener when we had the light show. That was a pretty awesome experience. But I'm super pumped to get 100% capacity and see them show out for us. So we love them.
I would say probably they, like at first when I moved to Portland, I was like, oh, it can't be that crazy. But there is a reason why it's called Soccer City, USA, because these fans, like, they just love soccer. They can't get enough of soccer. And it's super cool to get to see fans that come to the men's game also come to the women's game. Like, that I think is a really cool experience. It's not just one-sided. Like, it's everybody loves soccer. And I think the cool part about women's soccer is it's growing and it's on the come up. So all these fans, like, we're selling out our seats, and we're going back to full capacity sometime next month. But just to get to see all these people who genuinely love soccer, like, I know people love college sports, and we had fans who obviously were like our parents, like some students, but like, this is like crazier than Alabama football. Like, it's just a feeling that you see all these fans who just love soccer, and I've never been around something like that before.
Yeah. Uh, so Lynn Family Stadium, that place looks awesome. I've followed I've covered a lot of the USL, so I'm a big Birmingham Legion fan. Love, the boys in black and gold. So I hate Louisville City, but I can push that aside. I'll just act like you guys are the only ones that play there. Um, but you both have the experience of having both sets of fan bases, and more than any other place I think in the country, you have so much crossover there. For a lot of people, it's I'm a fan of this or I'm a fan of this, but Louisville and Portland just don't do that. Neely, have you been able to go watch a Louisville City match yet? And what's that been like?
Yeah, I've been to 2 matches, I think, and it's been really cool, honestly, getting to go to Lynn Family as a fan, and seeing it from that perspective, and also getting to support our guys team because they are really good, and it's really cool the crossover between the fans as well, like you were saying. But they actually have a match tomorrow I think we might go to. So I'm pumped, and it's really cool that the fans are supporting us because this team has been here for a while, and they have literally welcomed us with open arms. And it's been.
And Taylor, I mean, like you said, the people down in Portland are just absolutely nuts. They love their team, and it's just an awesome experience. Whenever you get to see both the men's side and the women's side get pretty much the same amount of love, sometimes even, the women's side getting a little bit more because one of the coolest jerseys in the league. I mean, that Black Thorns jersey is just awesome. You know, how does that kind of make you feel as someone who did play, women's soccer in college and has seen this thing grow and being in such a crazy environment?
Well, I think it's also something I've thought about for a long time. I knew I wanted to work in sports, and like I knew I wanted to work in women's sports because that's something that's really important and that I deeply care about. And just to be able to go to this city and be around people who sometimes don't know soccer but are trying to learn and trying to be a fan is insane to me. Like, the amount of people that come out and support and love like this team, like, it's crazy. And I think that working in social media, I've seen way more than I would have as a fan. But just when people like DM the account, like saying how they had the best time, or like they changed, like this game changed their daughter's life, like she loves watching women's sports now. Like, I think that's really special and something I never really thought about, like on the playing side. And like the other day we sent like Gabby Union's daughter a jersey because she liked the Thorns. So like that was really cool to see her post something on Instagram of her daughter in a Thorns jersey. Like that she doesn't even live in Portland and she's still supporting women's soccer. That is something that is super special. And I'm super stoked that Nealy gets to be a part of the group that these young girls get to look up to and want to strive to be.
Really awesome. Yeah, just going off of that, what Taylor said, it is such an incredible platform to have. And we have like a youth academy at Louisville, and so getting to see them or even just interact with them on a daily basis, like walking to our field, is just really cool. And also we can learn a lot from them as well, just the childlike love of the game. So it's cool from Taylor's side and mine.
So something that's kind of became a big movement starting about a month or two ago, and I wanted to discuss it with you guys because I think it's really important, is, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, the hashtag her game too, right? And whenever you're talking about, growing women's sports just in general in the US, right? And in Alabama specifically, the idea of going to a softball game, it's like, it's just a big old party at Rhodes, or, maybe going watching gymnastics, but specifically women's soccer in the US, it seems like it has a little bit of catching up to do with fans, even though the women's team is the most successful team in the world and it's not even close. What's it like on your guys' perspective of trying to grow the sport for, of the upcoming girls in the world?
Side. Yeah, honestly, I think the U.S. women's national team has done an incredible job using their platform, and their success has really brought women's soccer to the U.S., I think. And it's really cool, like I said, to get to play against some of them. And so I think them using their platform has helped an incredible amount. And just seeing the young girls wanting to strive to play in the NWSL, or wanting to play pro anywhere and wanting to play in college is really inspiring. And it's cool to see it grow in this country.
Yeah, I have to agree in that sense, just because I know that the future generations are going to be even better than, the current ones, because the way that women's soccer is now being put on a lot more channels and it's becoming more accessible, you're seeing that people want to watch. They just A, didn't know how to before, or B, didn't have access to it. So I think that that's something that's also helping women's sports. And now that a lot of women athletes aren't quiet and are very vocal about supporting women's sports, I think that makes all the difference as well.
So Taylor, you, like I said several times, like you run the social media stuff for Portland, and you are doing a great job with that. Whenever you're trying to push out content and stuff like that, when it comes to growing the game and having people be aware that they are, like, these girls are just as talented as their male counterparts, it's sometimes even more so. How do you try to get that across to viewers who sometimes maybe just aren't informed?
Well, that I think that's never going to change. There's always going to be people who are going to be like, no, like the men's sport is just superior. But it's like, well, then look at the numbers. Like, look at all the things these women athletes have been doing. Like, and that's something that has been really difficult for me to kind of like grasp, is that like there will be people who aren't going to understand how big women's sports are and how important they are. But it's like the time we had like the girl dad hashtag trending, like that stuff that you can make people aware of. Like, you want to support women, for your wives, your sisters, your daughters even. So like I think that that's really cool that it's becoming so widely known that women's sports are important and women's sports are making a difference. So that's something that's kind of hard for me to understand with some fans, but at the end of the day, you have to understand not everyone's going to get it, not everyone's going to agree. So, I know what I know and everyone else knows what they do. but women's sports is making a difference. And I think that that's really important message that we need to get across.
So Neely, right now you are really just rubbing into Taylor and mine's face of that it's a nice day outside and you can actually be outside at the moment. I don't know about where Taylor is, but it just got done just lightning and thundering like crazy over here. So it's been absolutely miserable. So I'm glad you have a good day to be outside. But it looks absolutely gorgeous over there.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice day out in Louisville. Sorry to hear y'all have bad weather, but we've had rain the past few days, so it's about time we see some sunshine.
How's Louisville been treating you? I mean, there's a lot of just really interesting places to go downtown. Have you had a chance to go out and explore quite yet?
Obviously with COVID, I'm pretty careful. I try and be careful. But Louisville's food scene is pretty crazy, honestly. I've tried some really good food places. They have good Mexican. I've heard the Cuban's good. Haven't been yet. Mediterranean, Greek. They have a great food scene, and that's really where I think I have explored a little bit. But the club has treated me incredibly. Honestly, they're world class, and I'm just so grateful that they saw the potential in me and are investing in me.
So there was a podcast that I listened to. Oh, and I'm gonna mess up her name because I'm just horrible with pronunciations. But Meg Linehan, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's her full-time podcast that she does on The Athletic. And one of your fellow rookies, I'm gonna mess it up again. Ekik? I don't remember. Is it Ekik?
Amina.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was talking about going out and doing the whole coffee shop scene, how she goes out all the time and just sometimes we'll just go out and just chill out at a park for a little while. Do you ever go out and just get coffee with her? And I guess question for you both, if you do coffee, how do you like your coffee?
Yeah, I've been to coffee a few times, but I don't drink coffee. So I just go, they always joke and they're like, oh, Neely's coming for the friendship. So I go I don't order anything, but they'll let me try their drinks. Do not like them. But yeah, I just go to hang out with them.
That's literally a classic Neely. Like I knew as soon as he said coffee, I was like, nope. I used to make Neely go get coffee with me and she'd come for the friendship. And that honestly just brought back a good memory for me. But I do like coffee and Portland has a lot of it. So that's pretty cool.
If I were to stop by in Portland, where's the go-to coffee shop?
Well, everyone likes Dutch Bros. It's like a Portland thing. I guess it's like it's kind of like a Starbucks to me, but I don't even like it that much. Like I like Dunkin' Donuts and they don't even have that there.
Of course, Taylor would literally show up to the stadium every day, Dunkin' Donuts in her hand. I'm like, come on.
Wait, where did you even go get Dunkin' Donuts at?
There's one next to the Ferg. And then there's one on McFarland.
Huh. Apparently I just don't explore the campus. I've been here for 4 years, had no clue. So there goes my knowledge. I lost all street
dining
cred.
dollars. All my dining dollars went straight to Dunkin'.
Literally.
That for me, it's always going to be I go to Starbucks because it's right near where I park, or what is it? B-Phil's. B-Phil's took all my money. So
yeah, buffalo chicken dip, fire, absolutely fire.
Half the people listening are like, I have no idea what they're talking about. Like, what is a dining dollar?
They know what buffalo chicken dip is, I hope. They're
Stuff
from
is
Alabama. They should know.
so good. So I'm gonna, before I let you guys go, I cannot thank y'all enough for joining. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. Taylor, what is something about Neely that you think everybody should know? Like, what's something that it's not really like a secret, but it's like, what's something that's a little past the surface,
That's a hard one. But I mean, I got a couple. I know a lot of things about Neely. Like Neely was struck by lightning. Um,
What?
Neely can do anything with her toes. Literally anything with her toes. She can pick stuff up. Like
Uh,
Neely also. I'm trying to think. Neely has some funny jokes. That is a good one to know. Neely is quite funny. I don't know. I can't think of anything like too crazy, but the lightning and the picking up things with their toes used to be pretty funny, like stories to tell.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot to go off with that one. That's awesome. Hey, so first off, I'm not going to just make you say tell a joke, but if something comes to you, just lay it down for us. But A, how did you get struck by lightning? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I my grandparents have a place on Lake Martin, and I was like in middle school maybe, and there was a storm, but my parents were like, "Oh, we can avoid it. Like, let's just go. We'll tube you guys." So I'm like, I'm on the inner tube, feet are touching the water, I'm pretty sure, and then lightning strikes the water. I felt like I got like an axe to the head. It was pretty wild. And then I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know if I died. Like, if I died, heaven looks a lot like Lake Martin, or I'm still out here living. So, yeah. So the latter was true, but it was pretty wild.
I, I I don't know what to say about that one. You're one of the few people I guess I've met that's been struck by lightning. Did you get any of the lightning scars? Because I knew somebody else who did, and they got those.
Yeah, I didn't. I think since mine was indirect, I'm not really sure. But no, I don't think I have any lightning scars.
So crazy. As for the toes thing, did you just whip that out in the middle of nowhere? Like you just did it and everybody was like, what are you doing? Or is that just like, hey, y'all, watch this?
So in the locker room you're changing, and I have these extremely long toes. My second toes are really long, and people just notice them. And so honestly, you just have to roll with it, and like I can pick things up, I can pinch with them. So I just have embraced the fact that I have these talented long toes.
Neely used to pinch me with her toes when I wouldn't get out of her bed. But I mean, I could tell you Neely stories for days. We went on mission trips together. We went on vacations. We did a lot. We go way back, but Neely's quite the great person and character.
This is easily one of the best interviews I've ever had. This is awesome. But Neely, of course, you get to return the favor. What about Taylor? What's some things that I think people should, or we think that people should know about Taylor?
Taylor also has great jokes, honestly. When we're together, it's just like banter back and forth. But her lip tat was a pretty good one. They showed that on the SEC network. What else? Man, there's just so many. I don't know. The lip tat is pretty good though. You should ask her about that.
We have to know, Taylor. What's up with it?
Yeah, I do have a lip tattoo, and it's still kind of there. Yeah. But it says YOLO. And I got it after we beat Florida State, or before we beat Florida State, because everyone started calling me YOLO. So I just got the tattoo, and they put it on our game on ESPN. And my mom, my grandma, and my great grandma were all watching. So after the game, I get a text that was like saying like, "I hope that's temporary," and I was like, "Ha ha ha ha, it is." But they haven't asked about it since. So I did get in a little bit of trouble. But that was one of those things where like Neely was like, "I cannot believe you're doing this," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so doing it." Like, because when you say you won't, like, then I have to. So
Yeah. Then she showed up, and I was like, surely not. It was real.
There were a lot. I remember when the lip tattoo first came in, and a lot of my friends also got them, but I never asked them. how in the world does that process work? Do you just have to like keep it open, like just do that for them? Like,
Yeah, they just like rub it with like baby oil gel and then you just hold it and they dry it off and then they do it for you. It was really quick and it didn't even hurt. So totally best purchase, hands down. Wouldn't undo it just because it's one of my staples at this point. Like all the campers always ask about it. So it's a cool thing, I guess.
did did you just drop that one on whenever you got to Portland too? It's like, what's something interesting about you? And you're like, look at this.
Yeah, I haven't quite told my boss or anything. That wasn't really my first go-to, but one of these days.
You got to break them in.
Yeah, I don't want to think I'm too weird. It takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic. Before I let you go, I know I said that was the last thing, but I did want to bring one last thing up, and this is for you, Nealy. And this was something that was put on Sports Illustrated a while back, and it was your 5 things that you wanted to do, right? And the number one was become closer to God. You wanted to go play college soccer for Auburn or a D1 school. I guess you had to add that one in. Play a lot, work my hardest all the time, and don't let anyone drag you down. you know, how does that kind of help you? And is that something that you still kind of carry with you? Because you already accomplished one of them with, go and play D1. Are those 4 things that you keep with you all the time, or have you added to them?
I've definitely added to them. But that was just like me in maybe middle school or the beginning of high school. Like, here are my goals. Like, these are obtainable. And honestly, I do still carry some of them, like working my hardest all the time. I think that's something that's controllable and something that I can do every single day in training, no matter if my touch is off or whatever's going on around me. If the weather is crazy, I can be working my absolute hardest. So that's definitely something I carry with me from that.
And there was another interview that you did with Cardiff Met, I believe. And it kind of goes with that first one. You have one of the coolest looking Bibles I've ever seen in my entire life. That thing was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Number one, obviously I carry around, like, that's who I want my identity to be wrapped in, is God. Like, I am a soccer player, but I'm a child of God first and foremost. And I want to represent him in everything I do. But yeah, my Bible is a study Bible, would recommend to everyone. It's great. If anyone has any questions, just DM me.
Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, that thing was, if you haven't seen it, I think it's on the Cardiff Met Sports TV, that YouTube channel. And it's just this massive leather Bible, which was just, it just looked cool. And before they said what it was, I was like, what in the world is that? It just looked awesome. And then, you went on to explain it, and it's just really cool. But Nealy, I can't thank you enough for coming on, especially right after lifting. I'm sure it's like, oh, great. This sucks. Was today leg day or what?
Yeah, a little bit of leg day, some arms in there. But honestly, I'm honored you asked me, and thank you so much. And thank you for connecting me with Taylor again. It's so good to see her.
I was just having fun watching you guys interact. I mean, this is why I said at the very beginning, I'm not smart enough to do this by myself. Taylor is a massive help. And, Taylor, me reaching out to you, I'm glad you actually answered and didn't just, leave me on red almost. You're absolutely awesome. Love talking to you behind the scenes and making this work. And I'm really proud of what you're doing in Portland. Thank you so much for coming on as well.
Of course, it was my pleasure. And anytime I get to hype up Nealy Martin, I'm first in line.
Well, like I said, hopefully you guys go on and have very, very long careers in Louisville and in Portland. And I'm hoping my Nealy Martin jersey comes in by the time I go up to a match on the 23rd, but we'll have to wait and see. So,
yeah, that's awesome. Glad to hear that.
Crossing the fingers. But thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Everybody needs to just go follow them on whatever social media they have, and and just become big fans. And hey, if you're looking for two teams, Portland Thorns or Racing Louisville are two great NWSL teams to follow with two fantastic people at the clubs. But thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Yeah, we appreciate it.